Hi guys, welcome back to Infinite Possibilities, the podcast where we explore the lives of amazing people, their choices, challenges and opportunities. And today I have a very special guest, Ramesh. Hello.
Welcome. How you doing?
Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
Big honour. It took us half a year, huh?
At least. Almost a year, actually.
And
yeah.
you didn't reply to a bunch of my messages, is that right?
I never.
Okay, so Ramesh, what's your quick intro? What do you do?
So my name's Sifu Ramesh Patel. I am a Shaolin Temple disciple and I have the Shaolin Kung Fu Guan, which is the official representative of Shaolin Temple here in Australia. I've been a world champion in Kung Fu, and I've researched traditional Kung Fu throughout China, so I've been to all the places that you've dreamed about, everything from Wudang Mountains to Shaolin Temple, and I've trained in places and with people that some have passed away now, but some amazing things I've seen. So, and I've travelled the world. I'm international Sundar judge. I've judged at world championships, and many of our students have achieved world champions as well as being in movies. And I'm just happy to be able to help change people's lives. So that's the grand scale, but at the smaller scale, we help people with neurodivergent people and just giving people opportunity to learn Shaolin and the stuff that I wanted to learn but couldn't learn but had to go to China to do. So yeah, that's basically what we do, and we pass on Chinese culture here in Australia.
That's amazing. Sounds like you've been everywhere and done everything.
Not yet. Not yet. There is a hope, but I've been lucky and blessed to have done what I've done.
Yeah, so we're going to go right from the beginning. So Ramesh, what kind of kid were you like growing up? Where were you born?
Well, born in the UK, in the very heart, in a place called Leicester. Many famous soccer players come from there. When I was born, in the first 6 weeks of my life, I died in a fire in the place I was living with my mum. I was resuscitated. I only found that out a few years ago.
And, what a flex! Here I am today.
And I was born in a time when mixed couples wasn't a thing, especially in the UK. So my father's Indian, my mother's English. So being accepted by neither side was always a thing. So I've always been challenged to always be the best at what I could do, what I did. Over the years in England, I became a national champion in swimming and played lots of sports. Played for county cricket, played soccer, played anything, did running, athletics, everything. So my parents are pretty strict in regards to both studies and sports. So if you wanted to do it, you had to do it hard and you had to be the best. So at 10 years old, I was travelling Europe in competitions in swimming and then over time, we moved to Australia in 1992. As a kid, before moving to Australia, obviously, sport and being physical was always a part of my life. So, being challenged constantly and challenging myself and being self-directed was a big thing because mum and dad worked opposite sort of times of the day. So.
What did they do?
So Dad was an engineer, so he worked at a big factory in England, used to work on Caterpillar, like big, what do you want to call them, machines and things, and make things. He made stuff for NASA and all sorts of weird stuff, and aerospace.
Weird stuff.
Just making things for different engineered parts. And my mum worked at what's called Sainsbury's in England, which is like your Woolworths here. So, and she's always worked in that, and she would work in the evenings and Dad worked during the day. We'd go to school, train, sometimes I'd run to training. So it was quite an active life and always focused, and then moved here in 92.
Wow.
Moved here in 92.
Cool. We're going to slow down and take a back step. So did you always love sports from a young age, or was it something your parents really whipped you into?
Yeah, I think one of the big things was that, in those days, we didn't have the technology. I'm a Gen Xer, so I was there before there was internet, and now obviously there's internet. So our time was spent basically, the door would open in the morning. Parents would say, yes, I don't want to see you before that light goes on, the street light. So the street light would go on at 5 or 6 o'clock at night. So you're out climbing trees, running through fields, playing sports, playing sword fighting with sticks and things. And as you're getting older, you start playing soccer, cricket on the greens, going to parks. Then you're cycling. So, you know, there was a lot of freedom in the sense of going to places, as long as you knew, your parents knew, like if you go into someone's house, you were gone. But it was like you have to be back at a certain time. So, whereas I see here nowadays, it's a lot more risky to just let your kid just take off.
Free range.
See you in 8 hours. So, yeah, so
Do you have siblings?
yeah, I've got a younger sister. Yeah, she's 3 years younger than me.
Oh, that's a good age gap.
Yeah.
So you guys did this like whole climbing trees, stick fighting together?
Yeah, well, I'd like to play with my friends, and she'd want to play with us as well, and I didn't want her to play with us.
Wow, being the cool older brother, don't really want to associate.
Yeah, she's a bit of a tomboy, but but she's she's sort of followed as well. She did well in swimming, and she did it in sports as well. So, but yeah, I think from a young age, just being active was essential. You know, if you weren't doing stuff, you were sort of in general society, you were sort of ostracised a little bit, like for being lazy or being sort of a loner. So yeah, most of the sports, that's where you meet a lot of friends. Also people, you know, in the UK is a little bit different to here in Australia. You know, sport is different in the sense, like here there's so much choice and so much, and in Queensland even more so. You know, you can just do anything literally, whereas over there, you know, to get into some of those sports, there's quite a lot of money, and for most people, that's not really achievable.
Yeah.
You know, and if you're going to do it and you're not doing well, your parents are not going to continue.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not like here you can
be the
be
worst
useless and your parents will still keep putting you in because they want you to experience it. Whereas in the UK, if they don't see you potentially being in the Premier League, they're not going to put you in soccer, really. You know, so that's why in the UK you see people, their lives are basically go to work, go to the pub, go home. You know, because you know it's expensive, but you know, in my generation of people, they were brought up on that. You know, you've got to work hard, get a good job, study hard, or if you can do sports, you know, you want to be the best so you can achieve something. You know, like in soccer, they would have what they call School of Excellence. You know, they're scouting kids as young as 9 or 10 back then, which was unheard of. Like now, they see a kid who's 5 years old and they'll just take
he's
him.
ready.
Whereas in England, you weren't allowed to do weights before you were 14. So if anyone was doing weights before then, it was very unusual because they believed that it would stunt growth, that it would create growth problems, you know, as you got older. So it was an interesting time. Whereas now, when you see, you know, kids are doing weights at whatever age, but it's just a different time, you know.
Different.
Yeah.
So what about sports? So did you find a bit of a natural talent in any particular?
I think it's just the mindset. Like, you know, you talk about mindset. I think with your parents, you know, they got that heart. They're giving you the good whipping.
I
mean, it sounds terrible, but you know, we did get beaten. I know it sounds terrible. In this day and age, if you said that, people would be like, "Oh my god."
Yeah, mostly smacked on the bum.
Anywhere really.
Anywhere that people can't see.
Oh no, people can see. They don't care back then.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, because it wasn't an unusual thing for a kid to get a smack, you know, or a stick or whatever it was that was lying around. But back then, though, you knew there was a consequence, so you don't want to get whipped. So you have to work hard. You have to train hard. You have to achieve, or even if you're not smart, you have to show that that you're trying. You couldn't just slacken off because you know what parents are like. Well, I'm working 2 jobs because they're the era of, like, before them, post-war. You know, it was one parent would work, the other person would stay home, like the housewife sort of situation. Whereas during my parents' time, you have to have 2 people working because, you know, to pay for what you want to do. You know, even more so today, like people are doing. You know, they're doing at least 1 job. Some people are doing 2 jobs each. Some people are doing online jobs. There's so many just to maintain the lifestyles they want. So, but yeah, definitely sport was.
Which one was your best sport?
Swimming. Swimming was the one. Yeah,
What age did you start?
6 weeks. Sorry. Yeah, Mum threw me in the water. Just threw me in, and then 6 months, and then pretty much from tiny. Swimming, and then I joined a team like a club, and then became champion. First champion I became was the city champion, so I was Leicester City champion.
Yeah. How old were you when you were city champ?
8 or 9.
Wow. So this was really something that was kind of in your blood. Just threw in the water and you just did the thing, and then rock up and you were just champion.
Well, it's just a lot of hours and a lot of hard work. You know, there's always that challenge. You know, like again, I think this goes back to also martial arts too. I think having great coaches really helped me go on the path. There was a guy named Patrick Peasgood from the Leicester Penguins who gave me I remember he used to call me Rambo all the time, you know, and my nickname Rambo has been that way since I was like this big. So,
yeah.
But he was such a good coach. He knew what to say, what to do, how to coach to get the best out of me. And I found over the decades of doing any sport, the right coach can make a big difference. You know, you can spend 5 years with someone and reach this level. You can spend 5 minutes with this coach and you're already above that level. So it comes down to that ability of coaching. So coaches have done the yards, they've made the mistakes, they've learnt the methods to help us get better, and then we just got to keep practicing them. You know.
Fair enough. And what was your swimming schedule like? How were you fitting in with school and swimming?
When I was young, or when I was here. So
to become the city champ, that's pretty good.
Oh, yeah, that's every 6 days a week.
6 days a week. And were you loving it, or was it something you kind of felt forced into?
That's just what I knew. That's what I knew, that after school I'd have to go to training. After training I knew I'd have to go home and do study.
Yeah.
So, up early, training, schooling, training, training, study, go to sleep.
Yeah.
So it was like a schedule. We're all on schedule sort of thing. And then there's competitions on the weekend, or if the big competitions, like whether it was regionals or nationals or internationals or whatever it was, they'd be plotted out throughout the year, the calendar.
Yeah.
So, you didn't have really much time to mess.
Yeah.
To do silly. You
didn't have much time to think. You're just kind of on this yellow brick road.
Yeah, just pushing and focused on what the goal was. So, I think also, as I said before, being half caste, being a mix, I was doing a lot of boundary breaking as well, like barrier breaking, because it was also known, not known, but it's said, unfortunately, in the past, people with dark skin can't swim. They say like African Americans can't swim, which is really not true. It's just that swimming is one of those things where you need a lot of money to get into it, and plus, it's not a sport that pays millions of dollars either. So, basketball, soccer, people like Messi they're getting billion-dollar contracts.
Yeah.
Swimmers. I've known Olympic champions. I trained with Olympic champions and Commonwealth Games. Some of the best in Australia, and the highest monetary thing they got was a car. And like one girl, Hayley Lewis, she won. There was like 5 medals at the Commonwealth Games, and they gave her a car.
Yeah.
But that's thousands of kilometres of swimming, thousands of hours, all from your own back. There's no real sponsors as such at that time who were funding any of this. So, you're just lucky you had parents that were funding. So, so swimming, although great, it is, if you want to compare it as a financial, so it's not really a sport that you would be thinking, I'm going to make millions of dollars from this. But it definitely does. It's great for the body, and it definitely trains you to be self-motivated, because when you're swimming up and down following the black line, as they say, it's up to you how hard you go. It's up to you how fast you want to move. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, stroke and physicality comes into it, but it's the mindset again. It comes down to mindset again. Without that focus, there's nothing driving you.
Yeah.
You have to be the driver of your car to get you to where you want to go.
Yeah.
You can't have. It's no autopilot. It's not like when you play football or cricket or basketball. There's a moment there where you can just stand still. Someone else is, like, if you've got a LeBron James or a Michael Jordan, it's like, all right, championship game. Who are we going to do? Pass it to Mike.
Yeah,
you
it's all on you.
You don't have that in swimming. It's just you are it. You are the Mike.
Yeah. So when you were younger, did you want to be like a swimmer? Because you don't get paid much. Like in terms of what you want to do when you grow up, what was kind of floating through your head?
I mean, reality is that I'd never known sort of anything different. Swimming was my thing, and from swimming I got great cardio, great flexibility and strength. So it also aided my other sports. So I was on soccer teams, I was on cricket teams, etc., etc. So it was sort of like becomes an identity. It's Ramesh the swimmer, Ramesh the champion swimmer. But during that time I've always watching. I love the kung fu movies. I knew that my dad had done kung fu. I knew that my mum's brother had done kung fu. My mum's brother and my dad had known each other before my dad actually went out with my mum.
Wow.
So they were doing kung fu together back in the Bruce Lee era. So, and I always loved it. And the classic Jackie Chan films, the 36 Chamber of Shaolin, the Asian actions, Shaw Brothers. Oh, I love those films. Just all of those sort of old school, the 20-minute fight scenes where
Very cool.
Gordon Liu, a classic. I actually got to meet and spend time with him at one point. Old Gordon Liu, he's very famous from the old Shaw Brothers Shaolin Temple films, 36 Chambers and Return to 36 Chambers and all that sort of stuff. So it was amazing watching those films, and I always wanted to, you'd be in the garden pretending you got a stick doing a sword fight, or doing the the hand gestures, the mantis, or drunk. Drunk had always, even though we're kid, I don't know what drinking is, but like doing those moves, it was always acrobatic and so fun. And always in those stories, the Shaolin monks were these legendary people who had that sense of morality, but also protected the innocent. And whether it's just my personality, I like to help people. I guess that's what got me later on into becoming a nurse and whatnot. So, and even here, like I said, we help a lot of people over the years from different things. So, and it just inspired me later to get into that. But I couldn't get.
The seed was planted very young.
The seed. It's just that swimming was my thing, so I couldn't. You have to dedicate yourself to anything. You have to give 100%. You can't just do bits and pieces. If you want to be the best, you've got to be focused.
Yeah.
Like people ask how is a LeBron the best? How is a Michael Jordan the best? How is Michael Phelps? Like, how are these people so at the top of their game in sports? It's because they're the ones who are doing the work. They're the ones who are focused. They have a mindset that outplays everyone else. Because I always say to my students, when you see the 100-meter finals at the Olympics, most of these guys train together. Like a lot of the top guys of the 100-meter sprint actually train together. So, but what's the difference between first and the last? Is probably 0.1 of a second.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So what's the difference? It's the mind. It's the guy who works that little bit harder, who's got that little bit extra, who turns up 5 minutes before everyone else, or like you hear stories about Kobe, people turning up. He's been training for 2 hours before they've even showed up for their normal training. He does 2 hours before, then he joins in the normal training.
Yeah.
People go, oh, why was he so good? That's why.
Put in the work.
And through obviously Shaolin, they're the epitome of, people think it's magical and secret. The secret is just hard work and practice. Training, you just practice with the right methods and the right mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when did you first start Shaolin and how did it happen?
So I'd started learning Kung Fu because I wanted to learn Kung Fu for so long, and trying to find Shaolin, always wanted to do Shaolin because I saw the Bruce Lee films, but he was cool, but the Shaolin monks were amazing. So, and they did cool weapons and did amazing animal styles. It was just all exciting to me. So I started looking. So I started doing training, different styles of Kung Fu, looking for Shaolin, because people say they're Shaolin, but it's not really Shaolin. It's a southern style. It's a different style of Kung Fu, like Chinese martial arts. And then I'd done Hung Gar, Wing Chun, Choi Fa,
But nothing was hitting the spot? You were
No,
still
no.
dreaming about the Shaolin?
Yeah, always about Shaolin. And one was at here in Brisbane. There was a big school of praying mantis by Malcolm Sue. It was the big school of kung fu in Brisbane at that time. And he'd said that he'd been to Shaolin Temple and he had a connection. He was going back, and I was like, well, I need to go. So that's the place. But in the end, that wasn't the case. Like, we never went back. So, and by chance, I was hanging out in West End with a friend, and at a newsagent just opposite Brisbane State High, there was this little A4 piece of paper that said Shaolin Selected Skills of China. Mm-hmm. And I went in and asked the guy, I said, oh, is this real? And he goes, yeah, and the actual guy's son trained there. So he said, he introduced me, and he said, come on Saturday and we'll up to the State High just on the top there. And that's where we train and stuff. So I got my friend who also did Kung Fu with me, and we went down, and it's exactly what I wanted to do, like all the jump kicks, all the falling and flipping and head standing and hand standing and all this sort of stuff. And the teacher, he was actually originally from Beijing, and we learnt stuff, and then for a few years, and then he moved to the US and introduced to another teacher from Nanjing, who also did Shaolin, but also was a Sundar champion from China. Mm. So we also started learning to fight a lot more as well. So we did Sundar as well as the Shaolin style stuff. And then he went back to China, and then our senior was teaching, and then he went to Japan. So it was just like me and a few of the other guys who were the seniors at that stage sort of doing the stuff. And it was like, over the years, when you're doing everything from, line dancing, martial arts stuff, you make friends in the martial arts world. And I had an opportunity through a Shaolin monk, ex-Shaolin monk in the US, Shi Ru, who I've become friends with, and he said, because I said, I really want to go to Shaolin. I got no opportunity, I want to go, but, so he helped me go to Shaolin. So that was quite an experience. First time was
quite... And how much training have you done before you actually went to the Shaolin?
Almost 10 years.
10 years?
Of martial arts training. So I was lucky because I had both understanding of Chinese martial arts a little bit, good foundation, good flexibility, good fitness.
Yeah.
So I was already... And he told me also that they expect foreigners to be weak.
There you go, breaking stereotypes again.
And also, I knew that same sort of mindset from when I was a kid. Yeah. Not Indian, not English, sort of a mix, having to be better than everyone else. So when I went to Shaolin, we did 8 hours, so 2-hour blocks, 4 times a day. So I also did an extra hour after each session to prove that I wasn't weak. Mm. So they were like, at first they thought I was a little bit crazy, and then they're like, okay, all right, we'll move you into another group. Yeah. So it was just like you went from this group to that group, because in Shaolin obviously there's different layers of people or levels of students, of the monks. And then so that first time it was pretty funny. Like when I went to China, getting to Shaolin was funny because I flew to Beijing, then from Beijing to Zhengzhou flying. Now back then flying was not the most easiest thing in China. There was like 50-50, plane might drop out the sky, crash, whatever.
Risk your life.
It was normal because, trains, it would have taken 20 some odd hours to get there on a train. So when we did go on the plane, it did bounce. And I know it was pretty bad because I know how pretty chill Chinese people are when it comes to crazy, things like that. They were all like... And then when the pilot finally settled the plane, everyone started laughing. Oh. And I was like... I find this funny, but because they're like, we almost died, but it's all right. And then I was just hoping that someone would be there to pick me up, and the guy was. And driving to Shaolin, it's not like today, which has a nice freeway and there's a nice road and whatnot from Zhengzhou. It was just dirt, mud roads, very basic roads, potholes, and people driving from all, because it's
Were you worried that you were getting scammed? Like someone was taking you some...
Have my kidneys harvested?
Yeah,
I mean, I was hoping not, but... And so when I got there it was night time, and at that stage you couldn't actually stay in Shaolin Temple or you get arrested. So foreigners were only allowed to stay in 3 places. There was one which was just down like 800 metres from the temple door, and there was two more which were further into the village, which was further down, which is a couple of kilometres down. And so I stayed up with the 800 metre one. So the next morning we're up, we go straight to the temple, and first person we meet is the great master Shi Sushi, who was one of the masters who kept Shaolin alive during Cultural Revolution, and he was known as the top monk, warrior monk of his generation, and he was also one of the elders. So, and he'd acted as the abbot for several years before his health, and then he had to step down. And he's the one in the first documentary that I saw on Shaolin. He was the old master then, and his disciple, which was Master Shi Yang, was like the main monk that was featured in that documentary and in books on Shaolin and all that sort of stuff. He was the guy.
Your idol.
And that's what I was like, that's the guy I want to train. It's just like, oh. Yeah. And then after that, we went and met Master Shi Yang, and it was like, that's the guy in the documentary. I'm looking and speaking to this guy. It was amazing. And then we went to the Shi Yongxin, who was not the abbot at that stage yet, but he'd been doing the abbot's job for several years because his master was the abbot for 1 year and then died. He was one of the old monks as well. So, met with him, and he's like, okay, go around the temple, be a tourist for the next couple of hours, and then at 2 o'clock you start training. So straight into it.
Yeah.
So it was good, and
How brutal was the training?
It's pretty.
Were you shocked because
you
you
whipped.
still had?
I was good because I'm used to getting whipped by the bears.
Wow, you were born for
So
this moment.
the golden rule is it's the rule of 3. They tell you 3 times, and then if not, you get whipped.
Wow.
That's what it was. So you learn to get good pretty quickly, or else you'd be
Yeah.
constantly getting whipped.
And how old were you when you first arrived at the Shaolin Temple?
Probably would have been. How old am I now? 25. Might be 20, 21.
Quite young. And how did your parents let you go? Right?
Oh, they loved it.
They loved it.
They just hoped that I wasn't going to get run over by a tank or get kidnapped or something. Because the image of China back then is like, if you go there, that you're just going to get kidnapped, or the Chinese government or the army will just run over you with a tank or whatever. But it's just not the case. It wasn't the case. Yes, it's pretty. When I went, it was pretty strict, but it's not in the sense of like anything. If you're being silly in a place, you're going to get in trouble.
Yeah, for sure.
And I was there for kung fu. I wasn't there for anything other than immersing myself in the culture and the skills and the philosophies of Shaolin. So so it was great.
And tell me, when did you leave behind swimming? So how was that kind of transition? Did you fully quit swimming and then just go full into martial arts?
It was actually I had to make a decision. I got into university, and I had to make a decision. Can I keep going? Well, basically, do I train for the next 4 years to maybe make the Olympics and get on the Australian team for the Olympics, or do I go and do a degree? And my parents are not rich or anything, so I didn't have the luxury like a lot of the guys I used to swim with. Because in Australian swimming, I was one of only 5 non-Caucasian people at that level.
Yeah.
So there was myself, my sister.
Oh, your sister was.
Yeah, she was swimming. Jeffrey Hugel, who most of you know from being an Olympian as well. He won medals at the Olympics and Commonwealth Games. And there was these 2 other people, Leo Biggs. Him and his sister were from PNG. They're on the PNG national team, but they used to swim in Australia. And then later on, there was a Chinese boy called Hans Long who came, and then after him was another one called Shannon Liu, who also came into the swimming scene. But apart from that, there was everyone, and they were all private schoolers. So Shannon Liu and that were churchy boys who they were residents there, so they were boarding. And all the others were all private schools, churchy, terrace, mostly. And then there was a couple from State High. Yeah, so, but everyone else was Somerville House, all this sort of thing. So some of these people, their parents were surgeons, doctors.
Very
One of the
nice.
guys I knew, he was able to do year 12 over 2 years, whereas I had to do my 7 subjects all at once while swimming,
Yeah.
8 hours a day.
So at that point, you thought that this Olympic dream not
Well,
really likely to happen.
Yeah, well, it's a risk because I was the first person to go to uni in my family.
Yeah.
So do I say no to uni maybe for a swimming Olympics, or do I get a degree?
Yeah.
And I took the university because that's my dad's the Indian side, so go to uni, get a good job, So I made that choice. Do I regret it? A little bit. I would have loved to have gone to the Olympics because my friends who went to the Olympics told me all the crazy stories that happened there, and I love having experiences in life. So,
If you went to Olympics, would Shaolin still be a thing for you?
oh yeah, I think kung fu
You
is.
would have
Yeah, I was
still
doing
done it.
kung fu then as well.
Oh wow!
So I was
In your-
I was.
Yeah.
I was always quite a busy person, like in life, like I'm
You
always
really
working.
packed it.
Plus working, I had several jobs as well. At one point, I had 5 jobs.
Yeah.
My parents are like, if you're
And you
gonna
don't sleep, right?
no, well, that's wasting time. But it's like anything. People this modern era go, oh, hustling, all this sort of stuff. Whatever the buzzword is of the moment. The reality is that if you want to achieve anything, if you want to be a high level, you got to work hard to get to a high level. I recently was having dinner with Mark Dacascos, and he was telling us about his son, and there was an interesting. He said, it's okay if you want to, you want to do whatever job you want to do. Maybe you want to be a chef, maybe you want to just work at McDonald's. That's fine. He says, but you can't expect to have high level life if you're doing mediocre things. It's mediocre work. So what that means is like his son was only happy just to do this much effort, but expected this much reward.
Yeah.
And he's like, it doesn't work like that. Even if you want to be the best at McDonald's, you've got to work hard.
Yeah, for sure. Anything.
So and regardless, it's good to support people, but it has to be realistic. I think that's one of the things that my parents made clear. Like when I went to uni, my parents were like, "We can't pay for you to go to uni, so you got to get some more work."
Yeah.
So-
What did you study?
So I studied nursing. So I'm a registered nurse. Been doing that been working at the PR
Why
hospital.
nursing?
Well, I was either going to be in law or health. I knew that. Dad wants you to be a doctor. Yeah, Indians want you to be a doctor or a lawyer or whatever. So, and I didn't have a high enough OP to get into medicine back then. That was OP1, and
Yeah.
the school I went to wasn't a private school; it was a public school. Pretty rough place at the time. So, the way they did OPs, our school didn't rate in the top. So, even though I did what I could, so on the thing when you apply, I put like lawyer, nursing, justice administrator, like different ones, and I got into nursing at Queensland University of Technology. So, and back then you had to wait till the newspaper came out at 3 o'clock in the morning. So we waited near the petrol station, and you go through looking for your name, and there it was. I got in. Because you're checking all the different ones you applied for, and I got into QUT. So, and I had a fantastic time at uni.
Yeah.
It's good fun. In my grade at the beginning, there was about 550 of us in my year. Obviously, that whittled down by the end, but I think I like helping people. Yeah, I think maybe that's the whole thing. With Shaolin, you always see them helping going up against the bad guys or helping defeat the evil emperors or whoever. They always seem to help the less fortunate. So. I think, I don't know, maybe it's something in my character, I don't know, to help people.
Yeah, that's
I don't
good.
know. But yeah, sort of gelled well with the way I think. So, and it is a hard job. Shift work is not easy. I've been working at the PA hospital for 25 years.
Wow. So after graduation, you've just been at the PA for 25.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
And I do, my specialty is dialysis, so kidneys are my specialty. So, but yeah, so we see all types, everything from junkies to people with, damaged kidneys from, genetic problems or autoimmune or diabetes or whatever. So, but it also keeps you humble. You see dead people all the time. I see people die all the time.
Yeah.
So, trying to save people is important. Sometimes it sounds different, but sometimes people must be let to die because the amount of pain and suffering they're having, it's not a life. Like, you've had a stroke, you've had heart attack, you're breathing but you're not really living.
Yeah.
So sometimes they themselves just want to die. So yeah, and then there's others which obviously die unexpectedly, which is sometimes quite sad. So but yeah, it definitely makes you appreciate life. That's for sure. And then when you have opportunities like even just to do martial arts or to do whatever it is we do every day, you'll be more appreciative of it, that's for sure. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's cool. So what is a day in the life for you? Seems like I didn't know the whole nursing thing, and then I don't see, like, how does it all fit in?
I'm very lucky. My boss at work is very understanding. I've known her for a very long time, and without her support, in this phase, with the nursing phase of when I was... So before having the school, I would train. So in the morning, 3 to 4 hours. Then I go to work, because I used to do late shifts. And then after work, I'd go train for another 3 or 4 hours. Depends on what I was doing, because they had a gym there, and it was only like $10 a week. So
yeah. Where does this energy come from?
I don't know. I just like being active. I don't like wasting time. I think, tomorrow could all end.
Yeah.
I want to have done things, and I don't want to wait. If I don't want to get to 65 and go, okay, now I'm going to go travel, but then you drop dead at 66. If you want to do something, you should do it. You should make it happen. Like one China trip, I had to decide between fixing my car, which had been broken into at work. The roof had been smashed because it was a glass Targa top, so they smashed the roof to break in, and I had to decide: do I fix the car, or do I go to China for a couple of months? Guess which one?
China.
So Shaolin won again. So you got to make decisions. You can't go, I get to fix the car, and it's going to be another few years, and then something else happens, and something else happens. So no.
It's never a good time, honestly.
You got to be in the present and do things. It's great to have plans. It's great to have goals and aspirations, but without execution, it's a waste of thought, waste of time. A lot of people have, your vision boards, you have your plans laid out, but even like now, like for myself, I had an accident about a year ago now, and I'd had a whole year planned out, and unfortunately that changed. So you have to take that and then rearrange it and readjust your goals. But you just got to do. Like Yoda says, do or do not, there is no try. It's so true, So, I think it's just you've just got to have that energy. I think having that support, that drive from when I was a kid, has given me the drive when as an adult. You have to have some sacrifice. Do you want to be out partying, or do you want to be doing extra training, which then could lead to some, you becoming a world champion, or achieving a goal of going to China and not being seen as that weak foreigner, so to speak.
Yeah.
So, and that's the same in business. It's the same in any other sport, anything in life, really. You just got to have that mindset. I think mindset plays a big part. We see in this modern era now, mindset coaches, motivational speakers. We're on a podcast right now, and there's thousands of podcasts where people talk a lot of talk, but in reality, they try to overcomplicate things when it's not. You know, when through studying like Shaolin and whatnot, you realise that sometimes it's the thing you first learn which is the most important, because everyone wants to do the, like in martial arts, everyone wants to learn what is the number one, what is the highest technique. And I was told by Master Dang, the first ones you learn are the most important, because that sets the base for everything else. It's the seed of everything else. You know, so if you don't have that, it doesn't matter what you're doing. You know, it's great to go see Tony Robbins. You see he's a super motivational. You see the Gary V's. You see all these guys, Arnold Schwarzenegger. You see all these guys, very great. But most people will walk out and never apply it or execute on anything they've learned in those sessions. So, and that's the difference. I think I was very lucky that my parents sort of instilled in me that, even though it's through whippings and that, it's like you got to be focused. You can't mess it. If you want something, you got to do it. So, and then obviously I've continued that on myself through my teachers, who've also given me that that knowledge and that information to. I see there as examples of what they've done and then followed them. You know, it's great to be inspired by people, and having the right role models or influences, as they say now, makes a big difference. I think. Yeah.
And how did you become Shaolin Master? What's that journey? How long did it take, by the way?
Well, I wouldn't say I'm a master, because, as I'm told, it takes at least 3 lifetimes to learn a little bit of Shaolin. My teachers are the masters. I'm just lucky that I'm able to pass on what they've taught. So the actual journey of becoming a master, so obviously training.
Map it out. What age did what?
So you know, starting off in the 90s, training Shaolin, and then going obviously to China, and been going to China for 25 years now, studying obviously Shaolin, studying in other places throughout China, everywhere, because I like to research traditional wushu, so try and do wushu, so everything from Wudang, Mei, Xi'an, Foshan, Guangzhou, Shandong, Jinan, Shandong, Beijing Sports University, so people like, you know, the Jet Li, Wu Bin and all these guys. Like,
is it usually like short trips to China, or have you stayed for like a year or something?
Well, as I was saying earlier, like when I first started going to China, you couldn't go for very long because it was very restrictive on the visas. So everyone had to leave and then you had to go back. So, you know, sometimes initially it was the first time it was like you get a 30-day visa.
For short.
Yeah. Then a few years later, you could do a 3-month visa and a 90-day visa. So that was like, wow, you're having a great time.
Yeah.
You know? And then now, in this modern era now, you could go for 5 years if you want. You know, like, but over the years, I go to China 4 or 5 times a year, just to back and forth, because I'd come back, work, get the money, go back.
Yeah.
You know, because you know, it wasn't an easy travel, because, you know, coming from Australia, back then you didn't have the high-speed network in China. Now it's fantastic. You jump on a train, a couple of hours, you're there.
Yeah.
Before, like I went to Wudang, and that was a 28-hour train ride to Wuhan, and then a 7-hour car ride from Wuhan to Shuyang City, and then another 3 hours up a very scary Wudang mountain. Because now it's different. There's nice road, there's buses that the government spent a lot of money to promote Wudang and stuff, and back then it was like little, you know, these mini little car thing, these little van things, and literally the thing could just go off the edge and die. Like, and going past each other was just like creep. So when I went to Wudang, it was not what it is today as well. Another difference, you know. But the difference is that the training and the way things were back then were pretty hardcore.
Yeah.
You know, and not saying that it's not hardcore now, but the facilities, and it was more than just the training you had to sacrifice. You know, like your facilities that you're used to in Australia are completely different in China.
Yeah.
Back then, it's not 5-star. So
0.1 star.
yeah. But you know, you learn to live the life. You're living in a temple. You're living in a, you know, whatever. So
Did you love the life? Were you like, I want to do this forever?
yeah, I mean that's the thing. I could easily be a monk.
Yeah, why don't you?
I,
I mean, we'll miss you and stuff, but
I
yeah.
know, I know. My dad says that if he ever won the gold lotto, he'd let me go. He'd send me to China. We'd get a couple of monks to take my job here, and he says I can just live there for a few years. And I even said, like, if when I get to being very old, I'll retire there and I'll just be a monk for the rest of my life.
Wow.
But the thing that stops me is I like meat and I like girls. So
Wow.
if I didn't like those two things, I'd probably be a monk right now. The life is great. I like it. I like the meditation. I love the training. I love it's a different family too. Like everyone's brothers. It's like you've got a band of brothers, so to speak. And also there's a purpose. Everyone has a purpose, and you're sort of all focused on, you know, one thing. I always think to myself, if you know humanity ever was able to focus all together, the achievements would be outstanding. Rather than just, you know, imagine, you know, you think now you're one person doing a podcast, but imagine if every single person in the world got together to help you do your
Wow,
podcast.
that'd be cool.
How good would your podcast be?
Yeah, it'd
Be fat, it'd be amazing, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So, when you're as a monk, you're trying to reach enlightenment, but at the same time, you're also out there helping people, you're guiding people, you're giving them not only physical tools but mental tools to allow them to live the best they can, because everyone's situation is different, and most of the time the hardest part is for people to understand themselves. It's very easy to put up images of yourself and project different things to different people, and in reality that's why you see mental health is such a big thing these days, because many people don't actually understand themselves. And they have to watch an influencer or they have to do things to fulfill themselves when they don't understand themselves, so it's just a perpetuating problem for them. So yeah, I think things like Shaolin that can help. And I think if you, again, right teacher, right coach, right community around you, you'll do a lot better. And I think Shaolin is one of those places that has that. And even here at the school, Shaolin Kung Fu Guan, we have a very good community, and we've achieved a lot in different ways and methods, not just the physical, obviously.
Yeah, and how has sort of Shaolin changed you?
I think it's just added. It's a lot of things actually. One, it gives you insight into yourself that you would never have known, because you always, as you've heard, I always wanted to be a champion. I was always being champion for this and pushing myself. But if you strip away that, who are you? Who am I? Who's Ramesh? These are questions this is why you see in professional athletes today, a lot of it, like in the NBA, a lot of them, the people, the NFL, NHL, the NFL and all that sort of stuff, and rugby league here, people kill themselves. A lot of suicide in these high level athletes. When it's over, a lot of them don't know how to handle it, because their identity is the sport they play. If they don't, and that's why there's the programs and whatever. But I think they need positive influences, and people like I say, like Shaolin has given me this knowledge to be able to look at myself, and then also to be able to pass it on to other people to help guide them. Because when you end being a champion, or you end being a high level person in anything, whether it's business, sport, whatever, you suddenly have a loss of identity. So what is it? And a lot of people can't handle that, or they don't know how to refocus the skill sets they've learned into their next chapter. I think a lot of people, you hear the story that that guy peaked in high school.
Yeah, sad.
But it's because once high school ended, they didn't know how to move to the next chapter, and their identity was, Jono, the rugby captain.
Yeah.
And now he's Jono, the unemployed non-captain of anything. So he's gone from having this height to this.
Yeah.
And the same vice versa, you know, some people with this and then they studied and now they're doctor whoever or world champion in this, so they've gone up to here. And that's why people, when they suddenly get a whole truckload of money, do crazy stuff as well, because they also don't know how to. They've gone from being this to suddenly they're the world's greatest soccer player. And, you know, people are saying yes to anything you say.
Yeah.
And you can do anything you want. So, again, but who are you?
Yeah.
Before you weren't doing that. So, I think Shaolin gives you the inner understanding of yourself. It also gives you that, obviously, the physical side. I mean, there's a reason why Shaolin monks are put on the pedestal, or they're spoken about in myths, and they're talking about legendary stories, and you know they've affected pop culture. You know, tons of movies, tons of books, tons of characters driven from those stories because of their physicality. You know, they're almost superhuman when people think of what the skills they can achieve. But when you actually see the dedication of decades, you understand why.
Yeah.
You know, I always say to the students, they train 8 hours a day. They might do, obviously, they might do just one jump kick for 2 hours. Over and over and over and over. See the kids, they'll hold their leg above their head,
I watch those.
balancing for 1 hour, one leg, then the other hour, the other leg. How many people are doing that every day? So when you look at it, they are a very unique bunch of people. Anyone who's dedicating themselves daily at that level or that amount of effort at that intensity with that mindset, one, it's going to be a small bunch of people in the world, but two, you're going to be reaching a high level of something. You know, I'll say that for anything, any sport, any business, people, anything. Yeah.
Cool. Let's talk more in depth about Shaolin. So you've tried like a bunch of martial arts, so what kind of stood out and how is it kind of different?
Well, you know, Shaolin Temple is over 1,500 years, so they've had that long to research martial arts. You know, when I look at many martial arts today, claim origin back to Shaolin, whether it's karate or whatever. So it's something that gives people a full body workout, so it works every part of your body. You know, it's not just a predominantly upper body style or a lower body style or a grappling style or whatever. It has all those things. Like traditional Chinese martial arts should have those four things of, you know, Ti, Da, Shui, Na, right? So kicking, striking, throwing and grappling. Shaolin has all those. And I think the method of training and the way they build their practitioner, how you build Shaolin, aids your growth in those areas, because, you know, if you want to be able to kick, you've got to have flexibility. If you want to be able to strike, you've got to have strength. If you want to be able to do throwing, you've got to have waist strength and mobility. You know, if you want to be being able to grapple or lock, you've got to have the strength to be able to resist or to be flexible enough to have your arm put in different places so you can practice. So it definitely gives the practitioner a full body experience here physically. Second, it also fused with the Chan or the Zen philosophy, teaches people to be in that moment. So when you punch, all you're thinking about is that punch. You're not thinking about breakfast or what you're doing this afternoon, you know. You're not just hitting a couple of pads and you're done. Everything you're in, you're focused in that moment. So I think, again, we keep flipping to that mindset thing. So that's unique about Shaolin, is they fused the Buddhist philosophy with the martial philosophy, but also Shaolin is the birthplace of Chan Buddhism, so which most people know in the West as Zen.
Yeah.
So the Japanese term is Zen. So a Buddhist monk from Japan went to Shaolin to study. So I think also with Shaolin, it's, you know, people are looking for the blueprint or the holistic. People talk about holistic care or wellness and mindfulness. Shaolin is literally those things. It's got physical, mental, and spiritual. You know, and when I talk spiritual, it's not just the people think religious. No, it's a different type of spirit. So I think that helps the mental health side, because you know you have to. It's not just the mind; it's also the heart as well. So those things combined will affect your overall health, and then obviously your physicality, which helps your health as well. So it's a number of things that make Shaolin, and then when you think of it as a martial art, well, history has shown that it's been used by military in China. It's been used to defend against pirates from Japan. It's been used. This is just the monks. They've saved the prince of Tang prince, who eventually became the emperor. You know, through using their martial skills. So when you say, is it tried and tested? Yeah, it's had centuries of being used. You know, in this modern era where there's guns, it's very difficult to beat a gun. No matter what anyone tells you, you can't move faster than a bullet.
Yeah.
But as a martial art in general, it is a complete package. Yeah, for sure.
Have you been in any dangerous situations where you've had to, you know, do a bit of sneaky Shaolin to escape?
The ones I can say on camera.
Oh, let's go. Or maybe you can, you know, change a little bit of the deets, you know.
You know, we've had to do stuff to make sure people don't hurt other people. So, you know, I did security. I've done.
Wow, really?
Yeah, my first shift was in Ipswich.
Great.
In the mall, in the nightclub there.
What move did you use?
That was a lot of fun. In security, it's all joint locking. You're using joint locking, but in street fighting, everything. So weapons, using takedowns, strikes. Got to be careful of knives and things. Chains. Yeah, there's all sorts of even. There's been situations where people, you know, there's metal stakes out of the garden. You know, that hold trees up.
Yeah.
People have pulled them out.
Wow.
So.
Were they drunk?
No. It's just fight times. You know, like there's a lot of experiences. Like I've seen people pull guns in situations.
Yeah. How did you beat a gun, Ramesh?
I didn't beat a gun. The gun beat the person. The gun didn't fire. It stuck.
Oh, that's great.
And then they were taken. But reality is, you know, in most fights, the best tool is your mouth. You know, talk your way out of it. Don't be in that situation. But if a situation occurs, you've got to finish it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Because it's not like a lot of people. You know, I know, like I love all the martial arts, but you know, when I see people say this X martial art is the real martial art, you know, I can choke someone out. But if you've ever been in a street fight, you'll try and choke someone out on the floor. His two mates are kicking you in the head or stomping your face. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's a difference between real street fighting and fighting combat sports. You know, like, don't get me wrong, people who do MMA and that, it's pretty full on. But and Sundar and all these sorts of things, kickboxing are great. But in a street, someone's got a baseball bat or a knife.
Yeah.
Or there's 6 of them.
Run.
You're not going to, run or talk or get out of there or whatever. Use whatever's there. But, no, you're not going to spend much time on the ground. And if you're on the ground, you've got to try and get up as fast as possible.
Yeah.
You know, like you try and leg lock someone while you're on the ground, his mates are literally stomping your jaw off.
Wow.
So,
is this from experience?
Well, I've got my jaw, so I'm not getting stomped.
Okay, good to hear.
But you've got to, let's just say, you have to be careful.
Yeah.
Like originally, like things like grappling and that were designed to do it, snap whatever it was, and get back up. You weren't supposed to lay on the floor for ages.
Yeah.
You know, it was roll, whatever, finish, get up. You know, whereas you know, obviously you can't do that in training. Yeah. You can't punch someone 100% in the face. Yeah. Because you might shatter their nose, bust their eye socket, break a jaw, partner. Broken jaw. That's wired up for months, you know. So you have to be real, but at the same time, you can't say that you know, this will just knock everyone out because there are people there who are on meth or on ice. You punch someone in the head. I've seen people get run over with cars and still walk away and just punch things.
Damn. Yeah, the world is crazy. Yeah.
And that was just even at my work, I've had to take people out.
Yeah, but it's a good combo that, you know, you're a nurse, but you also have martial arts, so...
Yeah, I'm usually the person who has to sort it out in our ward.
The front line of defence for the doctors.
Yeah. And patients do punch.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately sometimes dementia kicks in and they don't know, so they're punching, biting, spitting.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But then there's some people who are just crackheads or junkies or violent people.
Yeah.
You know, who are just not very nice people, and yeah, they're abusing people, and it's like you're trying to help. People are just trying to help.
Yeah.
And sometimes they step over the line and have to be sorted out and put straight and learn that that's not the way.
Yeah. We're nearly at the end of the podcast. Just a few
Nice.
more quick questions.
Yeah.
So, what do you think the meaning of life is, Ramesh?
The meaning of life. Oh, I'd love to say I'm still looking for that, but I'd say the reality is be in the present and love everyone in your life as much as possible, because you just don't know when it's going to end.
Yeah, that's good. Do you have any regrets in life other than not pursuing that Olympic
So
swimming
apart from
dream?
being an Olympic champion, no.
Yeah.
No, not really. I think without what's happened in my life, I wouldn't have learnt the lessons I needed to learn to then be able to pass them on.
Yeah. The final question is, what is an ideal day in the life for you? It can be work-related, non-work-related. What time do you wake up?
Oh,
What do you fill it with?
a great day for me would be to wake up, do some training, go have some food, watch a movie, then go do more training, then hang out, have a steak, and chill out with friends and family.
Yeah, sounds good. Hope you get to do that soon.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
I try.
Yeah, we're at the end of the podcast. Thank you so much for chatting. Hope it
Not a
brought
problem.
back a lot of good memories.
Yeah, it always does, and thank you for inviting us on your podcast, and yeah, just
Yeah.
happy. Hopefully something I've said today resonates with someone and changes their path, and they find my funny stories are getting whipped all the time. No, but reality is, I do hope that even if it's just one thing or one saying, that they can take that on board and, create a new path for themselves.
Yeah, sounds good. Want to say bye?
See you later.
Bye.